Thank you, Roxanne, and I want to say what a treat it is to hear Congressman Lewis. He is truly an American hero, one who not only is a powerful voice for civil rights, but also a great, truly great leader in so many fronts, including the environment. So it's a great honor to follow the Congressman. I would also like to acknowledge the great work that's being done by the Blue-Green Alliance, by David Foster and the entire team at the Blue-Green Alliance, and to call out, even though he's not here today, Leo Gerard and also Carl Pope from the Sierra Club. Leo Gerard is, in my mind, a real powerful force in our country today and a real example of great leadership. He reminds me of my first boss in this field. His name was John Laudadio, and John was both a conservationist. He was the president of our state affiliate in Pennsylvania, and also the head of the electrical workers in Pennsylvania. He worked for Westinghouse Electric throughout his career and ultimately ended up in the state legislature. And it was my privilege to work with John on cleaning up the environment. And Representative Laudadio believed very strongly that we needed to address the water pollution that we saw in those days and the air pollution, but he also believed in paying for it. And he made a promise to the industry that if they would allow him to address these incredible threats, that he would actually show up at hearings where the rulemaking was being decided on public utilities and support whatever was needed to get those jobs done. And so many times I wrote the testimony for John in those situations. And so for me, that was a really important nexus, because it was clear that the cleaning up the environment, in fact, created jobs. As you built scrubbers or electrostatic precipitators or put in sewage treatment plants or did other things like that, that you're creating jobs for the community, as well as cleaning up the environment for those of us who love nature. National Wildlife Federation is an organization of 4.5 million members. We represent people from all walks of life. Our members cut across the entire spectrum. The Federation has over 1 million hunters and anglers who love nature and who enjoy hunting and fishing, and many of our members are union members as well. So we have a kinship with the many labor unions represented here today. I'd like to talk a little bit about why green jobs today are so important. Green jobs in the past were important for addressing the water pollution, the traditional threats that we've had for so long. But today we have a greater challenge, and one that involves us all, one that speaks to the very point that Congressman Lewis was talking about, and that is the impact on our air, and particularly the impact on carbon emissions. We as a people have, since the Industrial Revolution, added about 40% more carbon dioxide to our atmosphere. We have known since 1850 that carbon dioxide is a heat-trapping gas, and yet today we have politicians still suggesting that the science is fraudulent, that it's a hoax, and it's clear to me that we're already seeing very dramatic changes on our planet. If you look around the world, you'll see increasing storms, more intense droughts, forest fires. We have a 4-fold increase in the number of forest fires here in the United States, a 6-fold increase in the number of acres that are burnt, despite the fact that we have a much more aggressive fire prevention and control strategy than we've ever had. We see these intense storms rattling across our country. This year we're experiencing one of the warmest winters I can recall. On and on it goes, and the Arctic continues to shrink. The Arctic ice continues to shrink year by year, and that system melting away will in fact have profound impacts on our climate and on our lives for years to come. The scientists have determined that the carbon dioxide we've put in our air, some of it has fallen into the ocean and has actually increased the acidity of the oceans by 30% already. So that means that fish and shellfish have a harder time surviving over time. There are a number of impacts already beginning to show as a result of carbon dioxide pollution. We have known that this is a problem for a long time, and our failure to address it is now also causing people to have harm. You know, it's interesting, if you look at this debate about the cost of green technologies, people tend to focus on the cost of that without looking at the benefits of that. And in my mind, the benefits are the protection of our communities, protection of our coastal areas, protection of our ecosystems that we all depend on for our future. Nowhere in my mind is that more clear than what is happening to the Gulf of Mexico, and I'll talk more about that. But we have some very good examples of how to solve this problem. I am so proud of what is happening in Detroit, Michigan today, because the auto industry, the auto workers, the environmental community came together and agreed to a set of fuel efficiency standards. Those standards are going to be profound, because what they will do is reduce the amount of oil that we import into this nation. By the end of that committed period, we will basically eliminate the oil that comes from the Middle East, from Russia, and from Venezuela, while we'll also be creating jobs in various cities across this country to support the auto industry and to transform automobiles as we know them. And that's happening right now. And I can tell you the enthusiasm of the workers in Detroit is so obvious to me. They see the opportunity to build better cars, to make them much, much more efficient. I think we'll actually outpace the targets that we see in the rules themselves as we move in this new direction. But by drilling for oil under our hood, we can avoid so many consequences across this planet. And so we see that as a great example of how we can make our industry more efficient, how we can make our automobiles more efficient while saving the environment. We also see opportunities today in restoring some of the mistakes of our past. You know, when I look at what happened to New Orleans, I can't help but believe if we would have been more forward-thinking, we could have avoided much of the losses in that great city. If you think about the loss of wetlands in coastal Louisiana and the impact that that's had on jobs and on the city itself, it's quite dramatic. Coastal Louisiana has lost over 2,000 square miles of wetlands over the last few decades. We're losing wetlands day by day in coastal Louisiana, and that needs to be stopped. It needs to be reversed. There are several reasons for it. Clearly, the channelization of the Mississippi River was a big factor, and in fact, some of the channelization actually made the storm so much worse because it delivered water into the 9th Ward in ways that would have been avoided had we not made some of the mistakes that were made. But the important thing is today, there's an opportunity to fix coastal Louisiana and to rebuild those wetlands, to replenish those systems that actually protected the city of New Orleans and the 2 million people in Louisiana that live within 2 feet of sea level. There is an opportunity, and the state of Louisiana has identified this in the form of their coastal master plan, which is going to spend $50 billion to restore coastal Louisiana. That $50 billion will create jobs, and many good jobs. The Department of Interior, for example, estimates that for every $1 million spent on restoration projects like coastal Louisiana, that we'll see about 30 new jobs being created. So if you do the math on that $50 billion that is being projected to restore coastal Louisiana, you see the opportunity for construction jobs and for a number of other jobs to actually restore those systems. In addition to that, because we restore those wetlands, we make that region more vital in terms of its food and recreational potential. The coastal Louisiana is responsible for the nursery waters for about 40% of the commercial fisheries for the lower 48 states. The region is also a big player in terms of dollars produced through seafood, through commercial and recreational fishing. Almost $23 billion a year is generated by those industries, and that will only improve as we restore that coastal region. Tourism depends on natural wonders of the Gulf, and restaurants and hotels and other hospitality workers are part of the Gulf's $34 billion per year tourism industry. Shipping and exports from across the country rely on a healthy Gulf system. The Gulf region is home to 10 of our nation's largest 15 ports by tonnage. So we have a region that has been supported in its past by the systems that have existed. Those systems are being damaged. They're also being submerged by sea level rise, and we need to do our part to fix them, and by fixing them, we will actually create wonderful new jobs for those who are working to solve these problems. You know, if you think about it, what we're really doing is we're deciding that we're going to move away from carbon pollution, and we're going to move towards clean jobs. We're going to move towards new opportunities for literally millions of Americans. And there have been a lot of numbers thrown around about that. I would simply say that the faster we move to eliminate carbon from our system, the faster we create new jobs. And whatever policies are created in Washington, those policies need to drive carbon out of our system, and by doing that, they will create marvelous and wonderful new opportunities for people to solve problems. And I think we see it even beginning today with odd policy, but clearly a policy will make a huge difference. There's no doubt in my mind that fossil fuels will get more expensive over time and will drive jobs out of the system, where clean energy opportunities will get cheaper and the jobs will continue to grow. Investments in environmental solutions clearly creates better jobs. Let me make a few observations about our future. We really have a very clear opportunity for change here. Change is never easy. It's never been easy. And there are people who are affected by change. I'd like to suggest that there are leaders of change. You know, we heard that from Congressman Lewis and his work over his lifetime. He's been a leader in change. And those leaders, those pioneers in change, end up, I think, the winners. And then there are those who participate in change, who go along with change, who accept change and try to adjust to it. And they also thrive and survive. And then there are those who resist change, who fight change at every turn. And we're seeing that today. There's an incredible fight going on over addressing carbon pollution, over addressing climate change, over addressing a new energy economy. And the battle is now, and it's ours to win or to lose. And we see great examples of that going on in this electoral cycle. And I am not here to make a political speech, but clearly our nation is facing a choice. And it's very obvious that we need to move to a clean energy economy. One of the things that John Laudadio did, and I'll conclude with this, when he was the head of the Joint House-Senate Conservation Committee, he was one of the sponsors of a piece of legislation that amended the Pennsylvania Constitution. And I'd like to share with you the language of that constitutional amendment, because I think it speaks to the heart of our role and the role of government in our world today. The language said this: the people have a right to clean air and to pure water and to the preservation of the natural, of the scenic, and of the historic values of our environment. And then the language went on to say, as trustees of these resources, the Commonwealth, in this case the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, shall maintain and protect these resources for the benefit of all people, including generations yet unborn. And for me, it's that generations yet unborn, that intergenerational responsibility that's so powerful and so important to us today, because we are going to leave a legacy to our children. And that legacy will either be a healthy environment with clean energy systems and addressing these important ecological damages that we're causing, or it will be a crippled economy relying on dirty pollution and a very distorted world that is no longer as productive as it once was. Those are clear choices, and it's a choice I think we need to make. The choice is ours, and I believe the environmental community, working with the labor community, working with so many others, can and will win this fight. Thank you.